Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and this is going to be a really fun build. This is actually 3 different builds that you can essentially do with the Guts Greatsword, all in Cold Affinity, taking advantage of the Frost procs. This is only my second video doing this. I know the last 2 videos, by the way, came up dark. I actually found a fix for that, thankfully, but this one was originally recorded in 4K Ultra HD, so hopefully it comes out pretty good for you guys, and definitely be sure to comment if you like the quality of the video and such, and then I could try to make more like this video. Out of all 3 of these, the last one, by the way, I'm going to put chapters on each one, but the last one is definitely the most powerful. We're going to start with the base build, the most basic build on here, but it's still pretty powerful, and that's using Chilling Mist on the Guts Greatsword with the Cold Affinity. Now, I want to mention real quick, if you're not subbed, definitely be sure to sub if you love overpowered PvE builds. We've been doing a ton of content lately, and hopefully we'll be able to make better quality videos going forward. I know last couple days a little bit of an experiment, but with this video moving forward, we're going to continue to make awesome Elden Ring content. And now back to the build. By the way, Morgott did kill me, I think, twice. This is New Game Plus 7 before I got a hang of this. I hadn't used really slow weapons in a while, and going for the Frost proc on something bigger is a little bit different. There's obviously quicker ways in terms of Frost procs, but it doesn't really matter that much if you're hitting hard with the Guts Greatsword because we've got substantial AR and damage, and then we can take advantage of the fact that, again, it's Guts Greatsword, so pretty much anything on it's going to be good, and Chilling Mist with the extra Frost gives us over 200 Frost per hit, which can add up to a lot of damage. And again, if you're using just that one Frost proc, or you're planning on just getting 1 or 2 per fight, you're going to get additional damage after the enemy has the Frost proc on them, and then you can hit them really hard. With the Guts Greatsword, you can take advantage of that substantial AR and damage, and after Morgott goes down, we're going to show off a couple more clips here for this build, and then we're going to move on to, like I said, 2 more different builds that you can try for good options for a cold Guts Greatsword. So again, we're going to use Chilling Mist here after we put the Godskin Apostle to sleep, and he's usually not too challenging, but again, I tried a different build this time. This wasn't one of those ones that stood out to me as super overpowered because we're just using Chilling Mist, but it did take advantage of the damage on our weapon, and we're able to get at least 1 or 2 Frost procs every single fight as well, and if you wanted to get more on proc it, you could do that too. Like I showed earlier, Catch Flame is a good option. You can also use something like Fire's Deadly Sin. Just keep in mind that is a body buff, and it will run over Flame Grant Me Strength or Howl, and you'll lose the damage boost on those. And you're going to see here, the damage is actually substantial, and we are using it, as I mentioned, in Cold Affinity, and we have a little bit of investment intelligence, but we're mainly going in strength. We're still getting a B in our strength scaling, and we're getting 150 Frost buildup, which accumulates for a total of 210 with the 60 from Chilling Mist of Frost buildup on each individual hit, which amounts to a lot. This is kind of one of those builds where it's a hard-hitting, heavy, kind of cold-hitting build, in the sense of we're just building up that Frost very quickly, usually 2 or 3 hits, especially since the Ash of War Chilling Mist itself, if you use the sweep, I think it's an additional 120 Frost, so you're looking at that 120 and then, or more with the contact hit, and then even more after each individual hit, as I mentioned, 210 after that. 2 to 3 hits pretty much going to proc Frost, at least for the first time, on any boss that you face. Which makes it a solid choice, a real solid choice for something hard-hitting that you want to go for a Cold Affinity. And if you're really leveling up a lot, if you're going past 150, you can actually do a build like this and mix in different spells as well to kind of give you a little bit more variety too, because in the end, it is a strength and intelligence build. Alright, we're going to show the base build here on some mobs, then we're going to go over stats, equipment. The buffing system is going to be the same for all 3 of these, and then we're going to go over 2 additional builds, including the last one, which for me is the most powerful build out of these 3. We showed off on some mobs here. This is like anything with the Guts Greatsword. If you've never used the Guts Greatsword before, and it's something you're not really into or haven't really tried out yet, even though it's a very popular weapon, you're going to love it very, very, very quickly. The amount of reach that it has, the amount of power it has, the sheer AR and damage, it's one of the best weapons, at least for me, in the game. And then when you throw in some different Ashes of War on it, it makes it even better. It is a very, very solid colossal weapon. By the way, I wanted to mention real quick before we go into everything you need to know, and then 2 other builds, 2 other powerful builds for this weapon too. If you're not on the Discord, definitely be sure to join that. As far as build suggestions, there's an awesome list there if you want to throw something in there. If there's something that you want to see as a build for Elden Ring, just throw it on the build suggestion list in Discord, and I'll try to turn it into a powerful build. Let's get into buffs for this one before we get into stats, equipment, and everything you need to know. First things first, we're going to drink our tear, which has the Faith tear in it, so that helps us do some buffs. Then we're just using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength for this build. After of which, we're going to be able to fill up our FP. Obviously, first we're going to want to do that, and then we're going to be able to do a ton of frost damage by using the Ash of War Chilling Mist and then coating our weapon with additional frost, and then you can use something like Catch Flame if you want to too. Let's get into equipment. For equipment, we have the Cold Guts Greatsword with Chilling Mist. Any seal will do. We have a random set on, but the Raptor's Black Feathers will increase your jump attacks. Claw Talisman, Erdtree's favorite +2 to help with the weight. Axe Talisman, Dragoncrest Greatshield Talisman, and then we have the Faith tier and the Charge tier for some powerful hits. Let's get into stats for this build. Now the stats are going to be the same for all three setups. Where the equipment is slightly different for each setup, the stats are the same. We're heavily invested in strength with a secondary stat in intelligence. As far as the rest of the stats go, make sure you've got a good amount of endurance because you are going to be carrying around a decent amount of weight. We did hit the poise threshold, I believe, which is 51 as well. And then make sure you have a solid amount of vigor too. And let's get into the next build out of these three builds for a Cold Guts Greatsword with Royal Knight's Resolve. So Royal Knight's Resolve is one of my favorite Ashes of War, and for this, given the fact that we're getting 80% more damage on our next hit with Royal Knight's Resolve, if you're able to proc Frost, and I'm just showing off on some mobs here, you're able to do even more damage because you're going to take increased damage after that Frost proc, and then with the 80% additional on the next hit, Royal Knight's Resolve is going to hit like a truck if you're using a build setup like this. And this one worries less about on-procking the frost, where some of them you're like, let's see how many frost procs we can get, because that's the idea behind Chilling Mist, right? Because you're getting so much frost on each individual hit. This one's more, let's proc frost, and then afterwards, let's hit stuff really hard, even harder than usual, because they're going to take additional damage, and then we're doing 80% more damage on our next hit. And you can see the AR on some of the mobs here, how much damage we're hitting for like 3,000 and such. It really is substantial how much damage you're going to get out of this. And for me, this is a really solid setup if you're going to go for a Cold Greatsword. Now, you're not going to get the same frost buildup as you would if you're using Chilling Mist, but you're still going to get solid damage, and you can still easily get that one proc too. Let's take on the Troll here to see how much damage we can do. Now, on the Troll here, we're going to hit him as hard as we can with Royal Knight's Resolve, and we took about half of his HP off, and then we hit him again, and I believe it's the third hit that's going to proc Frost. He's going to end up dead by then, but that's a good example if you're going into a boss fight about how it might be for you. And again, a solid build with Royal Knight's Resolve in Cold Affinity. Let's get into equipment for this one. For equipment, we have the same thing. We've got a Cold Greatsword, but we're using Royal Knight's Resolve. Any seal will do. We keep the Raptor's Black Feathers on for that jump attack boost, but we're using the Ritual Swords Talisman here instead. Erdtree's favorite +2 like before. Axe Talisman, Dragoncrest Greatshield, and then we have the Charge tier and Faith tier. Let's go on to the next and final build. My favorite setup, and another one that's different, and definitely different in this one in terms of equipment, but we're going to be doing Giant Hunt in Cold Affinity, and this one's really powerful, hits extremely hard, and then can continue to hit hard after a Frost proc. This one literally takes the cake for me. In terms of what we can do with the Guts Greatsword and Cold Affinity, this is my favorite by far, and I thought about Lion's Claw, by the way, because they're fairly comparable. But at that point, you might as well just use the Royal Greatsword and get the Frost Explosion that comes with it, because it's basically a Frost version of Lion's Claw anyway. So I figured for this one, I'd go with Giant Hunt, and I ended up liking this build a lot. This is something I would use because it does a substantial amount of damage. You're building up that Frost, and then you're hitting even harder afterwards. This is a solid, well-rounded build with Giant Hunt. Giant Hunt rather, is really cool in the fact that it does posture damage too. And I know, cool, no pun intended, but we're using Cold Giant Hunt here. Anyway, you're getting the posture damage, so I believe around 40 posture damage on each hit. So it can build up on some bosses too. You get the frost damage, you get additional damage after the frost proc, and then again, you're using something that's just really powerful in combination with the Guts Greatsword. Let's take on a boss in this tree avatar here. I kind of worked with what I had on this character specifically, what I was able to fight. I am on console after all, so I only get one fight with each boss, unless I were to let myself get killed, but I usually like winning in the end. And we took on this tree avatar randomly to see how much damage we could do to him, and it ended up again being substantial damage with Giant Hunt, and then that frost proc, and then additional damage on top of it turned into just really great levels, kind of overpowered levels of damage. Giant Hunt is really solid. Combination with the Guts Greatsword, these two pair really well together. I really ended up enjoying this one the most out of the three, and I was able to get good amounts of damage out of it. Let's get into equipment. This ice cold setup, we have the Guts Greatsword with Giant Hunt and Cold Affinity. We have Any Seal, the Raptor's Black Feathers, Ritual Swords Talisman, Erdtree's Favorite +2. We're using the Shard of Alexander here to boost Giant Hunt, Dragoncrest Greatshield Talisman. And then we have the Charged tier again, and the Faith tier so we can do some buffs. Thanks for watching this one, by the way. This was a really cool build to do 3 different Frost builds for the Guts Greatsword, essentially. They're only slightly different, but each one kind of has their own unique feature, and it was definitely fun to do this. If you want to see more videos that were recorded in Ultra HD like this one, let me know. Definitely be sure to comment on that. If you're not in the Discord, definitely be sure to join that too. If you're not subbed and you love overpowered PvE builds, be sure to check out all the awesome builds that are on my channel. There's like an entire library there now. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys there.